should also have a solution for color coordinating shoes, which I owe a lot to other people on this one. Specifically, well, here, let's take a look. Although, my timing is off for, well, maybe cutting soon, but anyway. Okay, so I've got it set up pretty decently right now. The inputs for the sensor and button are hooked up into this MC4000. So I test if the accumulator is greater than 0, which means I've got data in. And so if it is, I test if the button is off. If it is off, I move value of 3 to x1, I move 0 to the accumulator, and I jump to the end. But if there's no data here right now, I test if the button tests greater than p10, so if the button is on. So if it is, then I move whatever is in the from p0 into the accumulator, and then I move the accumulator to x0. And then at the end I sleep 1. So yeah, if I don't know if this is a good way to handle this, but I can't think of a better way right now. This MC6000 just sleeps until it gets data in. I move that into the accumulator, and then I do digit get 1, which takes whatever number is in the tens column, which will reflect the wavelength. Then I do, and this is the part where I explain that pretty much most of this code is borrowed, because I had to take it from the Shenzhen IO subreddit, which I've brought up here now, because yeah, this user, Griffin Oak, was also having problems with this puzzle. And pretty much all of this all this code I borrowed from him. So yeah, move p0 to accumulator, digit get 1, which again, this is pretty much, I kind of figured this out on my own. And this is what I had not figured out on my own. Well, and the rest of this is what I had not figured out on my own. Test equal accumulator 2, because the lower end of the red group, you need to store that with all of the red. And the way I had it, I was storing each individual value, which was bad. So if it is equal to 2, add 1, that makes it a value of 3, which means you can store all of the red values in the 3 slot. So, move accumulator to the data registry, so it saves whatever value, move accumulator x0, so it goes to the address line of RAM. Move x1 to the accumulator, data line of RAM. Okay, so yeah, that way you set the, so by moving the accumulator to x0, you set the RAM chip to the slot where you're going to be storing the specific color that you found. And then you move whatever value was in there into the accumulator. Then you add 1. Then you move the data registry back to the... Yeah, you move data registry to x0, move the address back, and move the accumulator to x1. You move you move the data back in. So yeah, that's pretty much everything. And at the end I just said to sleep. Oh, I don't need this line, I think. Well, I don't need the title or the label. But yeah, that goes in. Once this detects that the button is off, then it goes to here. So yeah, sleep x3, which it'll always be a 3. I move that into the accumulator. I move 0 into the data registry. I move the accumulator to x1, which is the secondary addressing. And then I do a loop, test less than accumulator 9, because the highest value we'll actually be using is 8 for violet. So it goes 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And that's 6 numbers covering the 6 values in the visible light spectrum. So yeah, if it's 9 or more, I jump back to sleep. But if it's less than 9, then I test greater than x0 DADs. So yeah, I started off by pulling the value for whatever's in red into the data registry, and that automatically moved it to the 4 position. So we're checking if the value in orange is greater than the value of red. If it is, then I move the accumulator to x2. Yeah, I move that ahead. Then I move the accumulator to x1. So I reset it back one. Then I move X0 to data registry. Then I move the accumulator to X1. That resets it again. That resets the pointer again. I move 0 into X0. And that's important because I have to clear this every time I use it. Otherwise, it keeps adding on, and I never get anything right. I add 1 to the accumulator to keep track of where I am, and then jump back to the loop start. So, going into here, this just it just takes whatever value is highest at the moment, and if a new higher value comes in, then it'll replace that. So it sleeps until it gets from X3. I move that into the accumulator. I multiply by 2, and I subtract 6. And now here's the reason for doing that. I've set up this ROM chip to store the ink values corresponding to each color. But in order to do that, I had to get creative. So the color values are assigned to the numbers 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Which is kind of tight for this ROM chip. But if you multiply that by 2, you get 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. So multiplying that adds an additional slot, and if I subtract 6, then it goes to 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, which is just enough to squeeze 12 values into a ROM chip. So each color is now associated with 2 numbers in the ROM chip. So once I have my adjusted number, I move that into the address port. Then I move the data value twice because the first time it pulls whatever number's in there first, it drops down, and then it pulls the next number. And so this one, MC4000, is set up pretty simply. It initializes to move 50 into P0 and P1 because it has to start out at neutral. It just sleeps until it receives data from X0. It moves the first X0 out P0 into the ink end, and then it moves the second out P1. So, as you see, goes through, button is on, so we're taking sensor data in. It's going in, and at this point, you can see right now, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It looks like yellow is the most common color, which I think corresponds here to this 5, 5. So yeah, we advance, and it adjusted correctly. So yeah, it goes through, and it adjusts automatically again, and runs simulation. And time for more tea. And wow, it looks like I hit the most common solution this time. Most common cost, yes. Most common power usage, yes. And most common number of lines of code, although apparently I might have been able to do it with 1 or 2 fewer lines. Alright. Okay, from Wu Li Li. This is actually pretty cool, Joe. Maybe even more kinds of clothing could be next after shoes? From Joe. Personally, I'm thinking we could apply it to tracksuits next. It'd be sweet if I could have a different color for every day of the week. That's actually kind of interesting. But yeah, moving on to the safety net tracking badge. So I was having a little trouble, but yeah, it's mostly the same as it was, only I figured out that there's something a bit more important. Specifically, this part, the user's location can be determined when a radar ping pulse is detected by correlating the current heading and distance from the central tracking radar with the sector map. That means the only time you're supposed to be taking the readings for that is when you get a ping in from the radar ping. And I suppose that's what I was missing. So whenever the radar ping is greater than 0, you need to save the value of the radar ping and whatever the radar sync value was, and that tells you what sector they were in. So if a value, a 2 request comes in, you can then return whatever was stored there. Well, with the adjustments, of course. So yeah, radio RX comes in to here, TCP X1 and 1. If it's more, that means it's a 2, so I move X1 out X2, so it goes to here, and then I jump to end. If it's exactly equal, I move a 0 to x0 and jump to end. Mostly because of the changes I've made to this one. Oh wait, if it's less. So if it's negative 999, then I move 0 to here and jump end. But if it's exactly 1, as usual, I move x1 to the accumulator because that's the remaining length of the packet, and I move the accumulator into this chip. I test great, and again, loop, test greater than accumulator 0. If it is sub 1, move x1 to x3, sleep 1, jump loop. If it's not, then move 0 to accumulator. Huh. I may not need that line of code, actually, because... Huh. I guess I had an extra line of code that I didn't need. Then this controller, again, it initializes to move 50 at P1 because we have to initialize the speaker to 50. Sleeps until it receives data from here. I move that into the accumulator. Then loop test greater than accumulator 0. If it is, subtract 1. Move whatever it gets from x1 out P1. Sleep 1 and move 0 out x0 because we have to reset that. Actually, maybe I should do that before sleep 1. Just in case, I think. Although, I don't know, that may be a mistake. Jump back to loop, and if it is not greater than 0, we can probably remove this move 0 accumulator again. And move 50 P1. Yeah, because if it's not greater than 0, then that means it's 0 or less. Okay, but then this chip, again, sleeps until it receives data from x2, and then it tests if that value is equal to the value stored in the secure chip. Because we're checking whenever we get a 2-value command. So this one will match the chip and we'll have to return the location, but this one doesn't. So if it does match, I move 1 out here, and if it doesn't match, I move 0 out here. Because this thing is pretty much always taking it. So here's how I've gotten it correct. I test greater than P00, so that's it. We're testing if we're getting a ping in. If we do, I move P0 to the data, I move the ping value to the data registry, and I move the sync value to the accumulator. Then I test if the value coming in from x2 is 1. If it's not, then I jump to the end and sleep 1. And that's why I've had to send zeros in, because I have to check it every time unit. Because I always have to check if I have a ping, and then I have to check if I have to do the rest of this. So, if we are getting a request for location, I have to test if the ping strength is 80, it's greater than 79, so if it's 80 or more. If it is, then I move 100 to x1 because they're in this innermost circle, and jump to the end. So if they're not in the innermost circle, I have to test if the accumulator is equal to 0. If it is, they're in this wedge here, so I can just move 600 to x1. If it's not equal to 0, then I just test if the data registry is equal to 50, because if it's not 0, then it means they're in this area, and if the ping is 50, then they're in this 700 there. So if it is, I move 700 x1, and if it is greater than 50, I move the accumulator to x3. And here's a small issue with this. If the accumulator is equal to 0, then it'll execute this 600 out x1, but then it'll move the 0 out x3. And this is the best I could do. I couldn't find a way around this. So this one, again, it just sleeps until it gets x0. I move that into the accumulator. But I have headed it off here. If it's equal to 0, I just jump to sleep. So that way, I'm not testing against everything. Because I'm pretty much testing against everything. If it's equal to 20, I move 200 out. If it's equal to 40, I move 201. If it's equal to 60, I move 202. If it's equal to 80, I move 203. And if it's equal to 100, I move 204. So, let's just run simulation, because... Oh, okay, I guess not. I guess I have to move that 0x0 after sleep. I guess that tripped me up last time I was working on this. But yeah, it doesn't seem we ever get a 2 request while we're processing a 1 request. Which kind of is a good thing. There we go. Achievement unlocked. Employee of the month. Yep. I don't know if that's just for doing this one or if it's for completing the whole campaign. We hit second most common production cost, but most common is cheaper. Hit average power usage. Used a lot more lines of code than was necessary, apparently. Return to email. Ooh, okay. From Wooly Lee, thank you. As you know, it has long been my dream to see our company compete at the very top level of electronics engineering firms. With this contract delivered, we are finally there. I'm excited to see what Sun Hao Shan has been working on, and even more excited about continuing to supply top-quality electronics and engineering services for world-leading applications. We cannot relax or become complacent now, but we can at least celebrate this achievement. Come by the break room today for a free cream puff. You've earned it. Lily. From Joe. Yes, I am so proud to work here. Fantastic work, everyone. Future is bright. Joe. And, well, one new project, an invitation.